What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is SCC, and better than late than never, we've got the round 18 review. And as you can see, we've moved back up the ranks with a bit of carnage amongst the teams. We were able to score pretty decently considering, and have moved back up another 1,331 spots. No trades left, so no moves to discuss, but we still got the team. Still how it's kind of panned out, and seeing if we can continue to move up as injuries and even possibly suspensions in the future could play out. So we're fairly decently covered among the teams, but it's going to be hard to maneuver the team structure around now. It's all going to depend on that optimize button at the end of the week. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out, but we have got this week's team and results, I guess, to discuss. So I'll set the team back to how it looked, and this is what we went with. So the back line, a little bit lackluster. Houston finally bouncing back. Clark doing fairly well, outscoring Ryan, which we love to see, and picking McKercher as to play on field. Also not really working out, but we were able to field 18 this week, so that was good. I mean, 18, 24 this week. 22. Yeah, 22 this week. 6, 12. Yeah, 22. So that was good. But realistically, yeah, a few things that, really didn't go our way, with some rookies scoring well. One that we had with Dowling that we just couldn't get on the field. And if we'd been able to move him into the forward line, we could have had him on field instead of Baker. But the Baker pick has really come back to sting us. I think next year, I'm just going to stay, unless there's like a defender forward, like maybe like Fisher's probably the only one, but even he was injured last week. But unless there's one that's really sticking out to us, I don't think that I'll be ever picking a defender forward, because there aren't many of them. So it makes your moves really hard. Like, you know, even defender midfielders, there's more of them. Whereas a defender forward is a pretty rare hybrid, and probably this is where, you know, I kept that ruck forward in my ruck, where last year I brought in Moyle, who was the ruck and who didn't end up playing and just got stuck with him for the year and not being able to move him. Whereas now I've got this defender forward swing, which, yep, it does cover my back line as well. And I guess, you know, maybe, you know, and it would force us to have Richards on field otherwise. But yeah, it really doesn't help us anywhere else around the ground. And now we're stuck with a decent scoring rookie on the bench when we've got a player out, instead of being able to play him on field. So, and we're getting punished for it, really. Like him, Philippou, that Lawson, you know, all had big scores this week, and we only have one of them. We did look at Lawson, but you know, it's a bit of bad luck not having that score. And you know, I thought Richards might be on for an all right score. He was on like 40 in the first quarter. That died out and left us with a 50, which meant we had to roll the dice, or I decided to roll the dice on Baker, who's just very lackluster. I don't think we've had any good scores since we got him, really. Which is, I think we had that Crow score, which was a 103. That was great. And then like it's 60, 60, 60, 60. So it's just been really poor since then. I don't even know why I kind of went out. I think I was just like looking at the scores. 60 was the floor. I guess the first two weren't great, but at that point Richmond had a lot of injuries. He was getting mid-time, and I was just thinking decent run. Like at that point we probably didn't think Hawthorn were as good as they are, but they are pretty good. And then I looked at the rest of the run, and like it's not a too bad end to the year. Like with Hawthorn again, I was thinking St Kilda, North, Collingwood, generally teams that players don't score too badly on. But yeah, and I thought maybe in a contract year Baker might be pushing, especially with a lot of teams looking to swoop in on him. But yeah, wasn't to be, and we're getting punished for it at the moment. In that forward line. So I was really hoping that Gorm would be back this week, but he wasn't. So that was annoying. So basically we got stuck. Well, nearly couldn't get our VC score because of the way things fell with my rookies all playing pretty early last week. So luckily Kynan Brown didn't play, so that means we were able to get Luke Rosie and get golden score. So the VC worked out this week. Sydney v North seemed like it was going to be all right. Not that I didn't think North would tag someone like Gordon, so it worked out, which was good. Because the captain scores that were chosen weren't great. Like Merritt didn't score very well. Dacos wasn't great. Sheasel wasn't great. Ryan wasn't great. There's a lot of players that weren't great. I think Butters was all right. I think Gordon was like the pick really of the captains, so pretty happy to have got it. That was really good. What did we do last week? I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but we brought in Caldwell and somebody. I must have been doing them. No, it was the week before. No, it was last week. So we traded McGovern. Was it last week? Let's have a look at history. I think it was. Trade history. Yeah, round 18. So we traded McGovern and Rankin. So McGovern, I was kind of on the fence with, but because the Eagles were saying it's only 1 week. Well, they weren't saying it was 1 week, but it didn't have him put for further. It's ended up that he's missing this week, so it's turned out all right. Rankin with 4. We really hurt having to trade him out. I just held him through the last problem. The ban, the 3-game ban, and then not the 3-game ban, the 3-game injury through the buys. And then with him going out there, I just kind of had no choice because 4 games, his last 2 games against Port and Sydney, which don't feel like favourable matchups anyway. And by that time, it's just too many points to lose. So I went Caldwell and Jackson. So Jackson for the cover in the ruck was the only place I couldn't cover if I had an injury, which was perfectly what happened, obviously, the week before. Just had injuries in positions I really couldn't cover. Last week was pretty much the perfect storm to not be able to cover. So we had to go ahead and get Jackson, and then Caldwell was just felt like the guy that everyone had scoring well. There's a bit of a cloud over him this week. He was training away from the group. Bit of a different training regime, but it looks like he's going to play. He is selected. Crow's good matchup, so that's good. We could have covered with Richards, I guess, but it's good to see him playing. I'm not convinced he won't be laid out, so actually, even without Richards, I'll probably go Dowling. So we've got cover there still. We're pretty well covered all over the ground, to be honest. A lot of defense, we can't really move, but hopefully we don't get any more injuries there because, the forward defender movement is just really bad. If I could go back, I would have not wasted the pick on Baker. Maybe just tried to get a cheap defender mid, and a mid forward instead of Dawson, and then I feel like this is one of those chain reaction picks. So we talk about how one bad pick doesn't hurt you, but they start to chain into a lot of bad picks. And I feel like what happened over the buys really set me up to be in this position. It's not the worst position, but there are areas I can't cover if there's injuries. And basically with everything that was going on with the team, it's basically seen us get to this position. So I think if one defender gets injured, if I optimize, I believe it would move one of the mid forwards up to the midfield, one of Dacos to the back line, and then that would actually be all right. And I'm hoping at some point I get something like that where I can get the optimize to do that, because I think it makes the structure a little better, because basically what will happen is we'll have Jackson go to where Livingston is and go on field. And then that will push Dawson down, who's not playing, and then I can loop him and Baker each week. Push a defender up there, so I've got better coverage up there. And then basically I'll just have Dowling and looping in the midfield with whoever I want to try. At the moment, last week I was going to try Luke Martin. I'm glad I didn't, because he went 142, had his massive week. So that was a bit of of a good pick in the end. But yeah, a lot of the midfielders we have are not playing their greatest footy so at the moment. But we got Heaney back this week, which is good. And Gawn didn't quite get back. Did Heaney actually come in? I can't remember. We'll have a look at the teams. I think obviously he did. No way he didn't. But like, yeah, no Gawn. Fisher's back for those who need him. Kruger, I don't know if he did get dropped. There was talk of him getting dropped, but I don't know if he has been. Who else? So there was a shadow over Caldwell, but he looks to be playing. Another thing that annoyed me was the fact that Mackay was on like 80 at 3/4 time or something ridiculous like that. He's like the top scoring player for Carlton, and then Kerner was on like 0 at the end of the first quarter and ended up with an 80, and Mackay could only get to 93, so that's frustrating. But he still outscored him, so it's a win. That's another win to Mackay, but just could have been a lot bigger. Yeah, I can't remember who else was under a bit of cloud. So McGovern didn't come back. So that's one good thing. And I'm not sure who else there was. There's a few players that weren't in my team. But basically, this is it. So basically, I need somehow for like a Dawson, not an injury, but a player to be under a little bit of doubt, maybe get a red dot and then come back after a week while Dawson's not being selected. And then that will let me hopefully optimize a defender midfielder back there and get Dawson into the forward line. But at the moment, it is not doing that, and you'll see that from the optimization. So let's just optimize and see what happens. So this is what it's picking, which is not right at all. That's not optimized. Basically, I wonder if I refresh, will it show the selections once I refresh? Yeah. All right. So basically, this is what's happening when I optimize. So it's saying that Dacos should go off, which is pretty wild. Because he's got Hawthorn, which I know isn't great, but I think it could be. I think it's better than most. But like, we got a lot of green dots, so that's good at least. Reed's not coming back for the rest of the season, I don't think. Gawn will probably be back next week. He was like nearly basically there this week. Livingston's obviously the loop, and that leaves the rest. So basically what the team will look like when we aren't injured, I'll probably go something like this to here. Dacos could probably come on for McKercher, and that will kind of be what the team looks like, because McKercher's now got Fisher back there, so this will at least mean that we get to loop McKercher with Dowling where we can. So, and that's probably the plan. Dowling plays very early this week, so it's pretty much a free emergency with him. I'll just move this back so it's fixed for now. But basically, this is what we're going to look like for the team this week. So, looping Dowling. If Dowling goes well, we're going to take that score. Colby plays last, and Melbourne is second to last. So, we can easily loop that. I think my other idea was, so if Richards goes well here, I could loop Baker. I could move Baker up here, put Dawson on field, take the Richards score, and we can look at maybe getting a loop through there. But I think I'll just leave Baker off field, to be honest, because I really don't need him. West Coast play early this week, so Livingston's not a great loop. And otherwise, there's not much else to do with the team. Everyone else is back. If Caldwell doesn't play, at least we've got the Richards cover. Or we can switch Dowling there if we find out early enough, and then we can kind of go for a loop with McKercher with pretty much anyone, with McKercher last, kind Brown second last. So we could probably maybe even look at looping a Dawson, because they'll probably try and tag him and see how he goes. But knowing Dawson, he'll probably have a huge game. Where are they playing? It'd be at home. No, it's at Marvel. So not too bad a place. I don't think Dawson has a very good history against Essendon, especially at Marvel. Um, actually, he does have a very good. Well, that was at Adelaide, and then he had 127. So it isn't too bad. I actually thought he wasn't. I thought he didn't do too well against Essendon. I reckon that when I get at Adelaide Ovals, where he just kicked some ridiculous goals early in the year, was trying to wheel the team to a win, which they sadly fell short of. So this is how we're going to line up. Obviously, Dacos has got not the greatest. What's it called? Greatest projection here, but I assume it's just because he had a bad game. So that was he injured that game, or did he just get tagged? Hopefully, it was just a tag. Hopefully, it was an injury. But we'll see. I still probably would back Dacos at the moment. I know that McKercher has got a good role, but with Fisher coming back, they have listed him on the wing. So let's go have a look at that actually. What has happened in the teams? Yep. So Crows, Essendon, not much change for the Crows. Walker managed, Hinge back in. So they're starting to go with these younger boys. So we got the Dowling, Bond, Taylor, all getting another game, which is good to see. Need to keep developing. Essendon they've omitted Peter Wright, which is interesting. But I don't watch much of Essendon, to be honest. So it's an interesting one because normally Adelaide I would have thought would be a team you'd like to try stretch, but I guess a lot of their defenders are back, so maybe they're keen to try and mismatch them with some smaller players. I think Merritt had a huge game last time he played against the Crows. I reckon it's a good VC. If you want to go for a VC, do Merritt, because the Crows don't tag, so it should be all right unless they try and put Barry on him, but I doubt he'll be able to run with him. But yeah, not really much else changed. Goldstein, so they're going for 2 rocks, which is interesting. Trying to work over O'Brien by the looks, but I mean, maybe it's for Thilthorpe coming in because Thilthorpe's been looking like a bit of a monster since being back, and then Jai Menzie. Heppel omitted as well, so that's pretty big. And Hind, who's a defender forward. Geelong, bring back a bit of a favourite of the channel, Mitch Nevitt. I don't know. Seems like he just seemed to get so. As far as a Supercoach player goes, Nevitt was incredible in his rookie. I think he was averaging 80s, 90s. He was like Matt Roberts, but he didn't have as much history as Matt Roberts. But was he was pretty good at just popping up for an 80 or 90 each game. For some reason, isn't on Chris Scott's good side, so not really getting a game, but he's come in for a Clark, so maybe they're trying to give him a bit of a run and see what he can do. And the Dogs bring back Chalor and Norton, so some big ins for the Dogs with Gallagher and Garcia missing, but otherwise not much changing here. Fraser has kept his role for the year, which was a good player, good rookie for us. But this should be a pretty interesting game. Because both of them are really fighting for the finals. Yes, this was another big in for people. Alex Sexton is named back in the team, and he's named on the bench by the looks. So, is it possible he's a bit of a sub risk? Because Swallow's been named on field, Weller's in the team. That makes you feel like. I guess it is because Rosas is suspended, because Rosas was playing that defender role, but with Weller back, you'd suggest that doesn't make me feel. Oh no, Rosas wasn't. It was Joel Jeffrey. That's who I was thinking of. I don't know. Sexton must be a sub here, right? The Ballard, Graham. But Graham could be. But where does Sexton play? Is he playing that 7th defender off the bench? Maybe. I don't know. I'd probably feel all right if I had Sexton that he might get a full game. And GWS bring back O'Halloran with Cornelio going out. I think the writing's been on the wall with Cornelio being injured. Looks like he's been nursing a shoulder a bit. So I think it's probably them just resting him up for finals. Hawthorn, Collingwood. So Hawthorn have dropped Morrison and Mackenzie with McGuinness coming in. So that is specifically Finn McGuinness would have to be specifically for Dacos, you would think. So, and Dacos hasn't necessarily been coping greatly with a bit of targeting recently. So maybe we do try and get a loop on Dacos. I think it's such a risky one not playing Dacos because he's just as likely to go 150. But the Finn McGuinness in seems like a direct pick against him. And where they even picked him, they picked him in the forward line, picked him on a wing. So that seems like it would be like he could float back to the back line. Him and Day could probably swap positions. Oh no, he would be wanting to be a forward to be playing on Dacre. So him and Warple could probably swap there. So, I mean, team sheets don't really mean much, but I would feel like that's because of that. We didn't get the Kruger drop. So that is good for people who needed Kruger to play this week. McStay, Howe, and Sullivan getting a game with Big Frampton, the omission, and Schultz and Harrison both injured. So, Sullivan, that light for light with Schultz a little bit. Harvey Harrison just being managed. And then Frampton actually omitted, which would be the McStay trade. So, it looks like Kruger survives another week. So big for people who don't have gone back yet. And then Port have rolled the team a little bit. Jones injured. Oh, they haven't really rolled anything. It's just all injuries. So this is probably time for Mitch Georgiades to try and really cement his spot as the big forward, because personally I think he's the next big forward, because personally I think he's probably the next their next big forward. I'm not a Todd Marshall believer, even though Port have given him a lot of time. I just think he doesn't have the well, I'm not saying he doesn't have it. I'm just saying I think that Mitch Georgiades has probably got a high ceiling. That's what it feels like anyway from watching him. Can't really comment much. I mean, these guys are playing footy, not me. So, but hopefully Mitch can get a good run. Had a big injury last year. Played all right since being back in now with Marshall injured and Finlayson is being injured. He might get a little bit more of a run. I think Finlayson's out for the year with a sternum issue from what I read. I'm not sure about the other injuries there. Asava back, Willie back, Williams back. So Williams was a really good rookie last year, been a bit on the outer this year. And against Richmond should be pretty good scoring for them. So for Richmond, they got Campbell, Dow, and Smith. So no McAuliffe, which is interesting. Kind of on the outer now by the looks. But a couple, Thompson now has always actually been ahead of him, to be honest. Graham injured. I'm not actually sure on any of these injuries. I think Tarrant has probably the concussion. Graham and Vlosten, not really sure. But no real big changes there that matter. St Kilda, so Shoemaker and omitted, and which is probably a big one for some teams who don't have defender cover, because we don't really know if he'll ever get a game back. Garcia in, which is annoying because I held him for a long time and then ended up training him when he was 200k. Just forced to with how the trades were going. And Philippou, who a lot of teams brought in, is injured as well. So some big outs for teams there. West Coast. Duggan injured, so that's concussion. Waterman injured, not sure what that one is. I wonder if how many teams that affects. Yo, that's probably a big one. I think some teams were running him. Well, there's a fair few teams running him. He's injured as well. So some pretty big, or a couple big changes for some teams. And then Cully, Petrocelli, Rotham, and Chesser in. Brisbane, Sydney. So, okay, so Heaney is named. I just didn't really read all the names here. So, yeah, I mean, I was expecting Heaney to be back straight away. So, Mills managed, McInerney injured with that knee issue, and Rowbottom, I was unaware of what he did, but looks like he's out as well. And the Lions have just got the extended bench there, which they'll choose from in the end. It would feel like it'd be Berry, probably Archie. I wonder if Rebel loses his spot for Dev now he's back, although he's probably been in the emergencies the whole time. McKenna hasn't been playing great either, and Revel has actually been playing well, so I'd be surprised. And Swans, Warner, Mitchell, Francis, Sam Reid, Cunningham, all named into the extended bench, I think. And Heaney, the big name back there. So very good to see. And then the last game of the week, I believe. No, second last game of the week. Second last game of the week sees Carlton and North with quite a few changes. But these would have to be just because of the extended benches with Kemp and Williams out. So Hewitt, all of these guys pretty out of players, and North, Phillips and maybe Logue, Stephenson, Fisher are probably the big names here, with Fisher named on field in a back flank, moving McKercher to the wing, which is one reason I was looking at maybe missing on McKercher this week. But team sheets don't mean much. And then for Melbourne, Fremantle, we have Darcy named back in, which is a little bit frustrating. I was hoping that Jackson might have a bit of a free run against the no ruck Melbourne, who played actually quite well, even though they didn't have the ruck last week. Seems like a good matchup for Clark and Ryan. So if you're going for a late captain, that might be one. Jackson to the forward line. Nothing really big here in the changes either, unless you have Woden or Draper, but I don't think many teams have them. Tholstrup, I actually know, is in a few teams for the forward cover, so you'd be hoping he gets a game still. I'd suggest a lot of these names were getting names last week. They just didn't play, so that's from that. So going back to the team then, after those have been discussed, we've basically just got captains to discuss. So I think Martin actually would be not a bad shout either. I think he'll get a lot of ball. Merritt as well, good VC. I don't know what to do if you're going to choose from the Crows, because I assume Caldwell's going to put some effort into someone. So it's probably Dawson. So if you have Laird or something, it might be worth a gamble. GWS, Gold Coast. Haven't been loving Tom Green's form. Haven't been loving any of the Gold Coast players' form. Flanders is always good for 100. So if you feel like that, go for him. As a bit of a risky one, but not really sure on that game. St Kilda, West Coast, same thing. There's no one that really stands out of either of those teams, especially with Yo out. So I'd probably just steer clear of that one. Collingwood, Hawthorn, like the early VCs aren't great. Because really for Collingwood, all you're going to VC is Dacos, who looks like he'll be getting a tag, and then maybe like a Dylan Moore. But, he hasn't really been anything spectacular this year, so I think you leave that game as well. So Dog Shillong, I don't mind Bont there. I'd probably look at Bont. No one really from Geelong tickles my fancy. I think Trelaw and Libby could also be up for some good scoring. And Tim English, considering Geelong don't really have a ruck. Although Blitzarves is actually a good matchup if he's playing run around the field. The real obvious Zach Butters pick for a captain, I think, is great. Or if you're looking for a late VC, because if you have like a Brown like me, you can probably go for something there with like even a Rosie, because Rosie's shown a pretty good ceiling of about 160. So although I think Richmond have been using a tagger a little bit, so maybe that means go Rosie, because normally Butters is the guy you tag, and he's shown to be a bit of a hothead, so they'll probably try to look to get some frees out of him if they can. Brisbane, Sydney, massive game. Like Neil, you can't go past him and Dunkley. Heaney, or if you're VCing, maybe go Golden or someone like that. Because if you have someone like Brown or even Gawn like I do, you do have options to just go real late VC with the Sydney-Brisbane game, and then roll into a captain of like Sarong if you feel comfortable. Even Ryan could do quite well, because Melbourne let up a lot of points to defenders, and I think Ryan had like a 120 last time. He had pretty good scoring. Clark had like a 60-point last half or something like ridiculous like that. So I think for me, I'm going to look at VC Martin. With the Bulldogs having that off game, it'd actually be all right. I wouldn't mind getting it away early, so that's probably why I'm going to go Martin. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind doing VC of Rosie into like a captain of. See, if Bont was playing on the Sunday, I just like Bont as a captain option. I think he's like pretty steadfast, so I think that's where I'll go for me is like VC Martin into Bont. Bont hasn't let me down hugely this year. He's just been playing so well. Bulldogs are wanting to get pushed for finals. He's wanting to push for a Brownlow, especially with a lot of it thinning out due to bans. So, he's at Geelong's home ground. I don't know what he scored like there. Let's have a look. 141, 146. So it seems like a pretty decent matchup for the Bont. So I'm going to go for him as my captain if Martin fails, I think. But, you've got a lot of options. I think if you got Butters, that's a good captain as well. I think he'll be able to outdo anything they try to do to him as well. So I've talked for half an hour. Somehow I can always make a video go for a while. Hey, but hopefully you've got to have a look into the thought process that I'm thinking of. Hopefully your team's going better with the mine with how the cover's working. If you've stuck around and watched the videos, really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around late in this season because I know a lot of people drop off and either done with Supercoach for another year, waiting to get called back in or even planning for next year and, watching some plays for next year as well. So thank you for watching. Better late than never. Really enjoyed the year so far and hopefully we can continue to finish off strong. So we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.